Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it 8:30 where you are?
No, it's 9:30.
Okay, so you're not that far west.
No, and I already worked this morning.
Okay, hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, or good afternoon from me.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so welcome everyone. This is day 11 to our 30 years and 30 days of Pilates history.
30 years.
So we have people joining us, Steve and Julia,
Lynn?
Charlotte. Yeah, we'll give everybody just a minute to catch up to us. What time is it there, Brooke?
It's 2:30 here.
2:30.
I've positioned myself in front of all my Pilates source materials that have been
Yes,
framed.
thank you.
Yes, I have
Good.
an amazing framer here so whenever I buy a poster from you, I'm so happy. They work with people with disabilities and they teach them how to frame. So I always feel so good. So I keep looking for more things to buy so I can frame more things.
Well, just so you know, my fulfillment center is a fulfillment center that works with they hire handicapped and veteran and handicapped
I
people
love
as
that.
well. So every
So nice.
Double. Fantastic.
You got it.
Yeah. It just makes it, you're supporting a business that's supporting people that are in need. It's so, yeah, it's just a wonderful, and they do a beautiful job. Each piece that they've done, it's just, I don't know. It's so gorgeous. So,
Great.
yeah,
Great.
keep selling
Okay,
stuff.
hey Rebecca and Tony. Got a few more people joining us.
Tony?
So today
Tony.
in our interview, not yet, no.
I'm kidding.
We'll get to him. Today in our interview is between Sean Gallagher and Brooke Siler. So when we're ready to go here in just a moment, Elaine just joined us.
Hi,
Welcome, Elaine. Elaine is the brainchild of all this 30 years and 30 days. Angela. So
Rebecca.
Brooke, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit of your background in Pilates and then how you first met Sean Gallagher.
My background in Pilates, I originally, I was in school to be a writer. That was going to be my vocation for sure. My passion was writing and traveling. And I always went to the gym. Gym was just a place that I would be a lot. And one day, I started working at the gym, like moonlighting, just doing some sales at the gym. And somebody brought Pilates to the studio. I'd never heard of it. This is 1994. I'd never heard, I couldn't even, I was like, Pilates, what is it? And then I tried it and I was, like everybody else. It just blew me away. I had never, coming from a weight background, weightlifting background or gym background, it was so intelligent. I couldn't do it. I was really bad at it. I was very inflexible, and I definitely didn't have any deep corset muscles to speak of. I could do a lot of sit-ups. And so within a few months, I was taking, because I worked at the gym, I took as many classes as I could because they were free. And within a few months, the teacher said, you know what, you need to meet Ramona. And I was like, okay.
Who was the teacher?
It was, I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll tell you another time. But anyway,
So you met Ramona.
I went up to meet Ramona, and she gave me a session, and I realized that actually I wanted to spend as much time with this person as possible. And the best way to do that was to be in the program. And she said, well, if you want to join the program, she said, I've given you a session, you can join that. And she gave me like a full advanced session on day one.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big old session. And she was like, yes, you can join the program. And she sent me to Sean. And I don't remember if it was a phone call or came up to Broadway to meet you. I don't know. Can you remember like our first meet. I don't
It
really.
was, I don't remember first meeting, so I think it was probably a phone call.
Yeah, I think I just
And
called and said I want to join the program.
Yeah.
you may have even talked to Alyssa at that time instead of me.
That's really. I definitely had a
Okay.
good relationship
Because,
with Alyssa,
you know,
Rosenberg.
by that time, you know, I had hired Alyssa because it was getting, you know, crazy and busy, and she started taking care of everything because I was still working as a physical therapist and running the business and everything else. So trying to, for the training program, I hired her as my assistant, and she started to take care of all that stuff.
She was amazing. She was amazing.
And that's Alyssa Rosenberg is her full name. I
Yeah,
don't know if she's got
Okay.
married or something since, but that
All
was her name
right.
at the time.
she was awesome. She was a toughie, but she was great. And
Yep.
just so you know,
Okay.
also I joined the program not to become a Pilates teacher. I mean, first of all, I mean, of course it was a thing, but it wasn't really a thing back then. Like again,
Yeah.
people, it was still kind of coming back into. I don't even know if I could call it popularity. It was an obscure thing, really, and other than
Yeah.
probably for dancers. But I can tell you, I didn't come from any of that background. So for me,
Right.
I had heard of White Cloud, and that was it. And then I had heard of this Pilates thing.
Hmm.
So it was brand new for me. I didn't know who anybody was. I just knew that I loved it and I loved Ramana, and whatever would get me the most FaceTime and time with her, that was what I
Okay.
wanted. And you know, the best way to do that was through the program. So I didn't go into it to become a teacher. And in fact, 2 years later, I remember Alyssa calling me and she was like, Brooke, you have to take your test. And I was like, but why? It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to be a teacher anyway. And she said, no, we have to like graduate you. Like you have to finish. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I remember the 8 hours I spent in your office loft, you know, 6 foot tall in the top of Sean's amazing space up at Broadway, 2121 Broadway. And like, you know, you had to like try to stretch underneath the ceiling while you were taking your that was a whopper of an exam. And then I went.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think you can see it, but you're getting lots of comments. A lot of people can relate to this right now.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And Bonnie and Elaine and Maria's on.
Oh,
yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. That was a big old exam, and then I went back, and I remember I had to take now I've been working at Drago's next to Ramana for, you know, at least probably, I don't know, about a year, I guess. You know, she just puts you on the floor, you know, the minute I was there every day. So she was like, Brooke, go take so-and-so, go do. So I remember Alyssa made me schedule my test with Ramana, my practical. And I went up to Ramana, and she was like with a client, and she was running over with my time, you know, and I was like, shoot. So finally I went over and I was like, Ramana, I have to do my thing now, my test. And she said, test for what? And I said, I have my test to be a teacher. And she said, but you are a teacher. And I said, yeah, but I have to like tick the box. I have to. And she goes, oh, you pass. She goes, you pass. And I said, no, come on, you have to test me. And she said, all right, what's this called? I said, the hug. And she said, you pass. And then she went back to her client, and I went over to Shari, and I was like, Shari, your mom won't test me, so you have to test me. So Shari was more than happy to put me through my paces. So I officially graduated, and I was an official, you know, member. But yeah, I was never going to be a Pilates teacher. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm so glad I
all the stories.
Yeah. That's when like fate intervenes.
And then at some point you decided you wanted to write your first book, The Pilates Body.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Sean, what was your arrangement with Brooke to get that book done?
Well, she contacted us about that, and you know, I talked to the lawyer, and we negotiated back and forth. I don't have the documents, I don't know the specifics anymore, and you know, they're up in you know, one of those 150 boxes in Beckett, you know, from all the legal stuff and everything else. So I don't know the specifics, but you know, we talked, and they reached out, and you know, one of the things that, you know, I wanted to require for anybody who was going to use the name is, you know, for a book, because Mari did the same thing, was to put everybody who was a certified teacher at that time was put in the back of the book. Absolutely. You know, that was one of the things that I was trying to build that community. And so
Yep.
if the information,
Yeah.
they're learning just the mat,
Mm-hmm.
basically, right? But that's only a small part of the whole system. So to be able to find those certified teachers, in the different areas, and by that time there were I think a couple hundred at least, I think, in the back of the book, so.
And
Okay.
all credit where credit is due, because I got people thanked me for years for doing that, and it was part of Sean's deal to do that. So it really is on Sean that happened.
Yeah.
All the studios at the time were put in there. Also, I should say, and I had kind of shown this was one of the pictures, but we didn't know when I went to the publishing house. The reason the book was written was because I spent so much time sitting and listening to apprentices not understanding what Romana was saying. And I was like, how are they not understanding this? So I started taking notes on my own. And then I happened to get a call out of the blue, somebody at a literary agent asking if I had ever considered writing a book on Pilates. And I said, it's so funny you should say that. I've been taking all these notes. And that's how that began. So it really was me just trying to translate what I understood from Romana,
Right.
so that I could say it or show it in easier terms. But we didn't know originally, when the book deal came through, if we would be able to use Pilates. I don't know if you were going through the lawsuit at the time, or if this was pre.
Well, with the lawsuit, I was, going after, I sued the Pilates Institute first, and then they lost, and then Kenny had started a foundation, and I sued them too, and then I sued him. So you published in '99, so by then we were in it, we were doing it.
Yeah.
But
right.
That was the mid-90s, yeah. So you were late 90s.
So I was,
Brooke.
99, I was writing it, and it was published in 2000, but I was kind of giggling when I saw this. This was what it was going to be if Sean said no. That was
the original mock-up,
the cover. But using the mat work techniques of Joseph H. Pilates, because that was the only thing we would be able to say. But I do remember showing this to you, Sean, and Sean's amazing PT eyes. He was like, oh, we have to fix your feet. We have to do something about your toes. So I'm still working on that.
Well,
so then what did the cover become? Show us the cover.
So
yes.
That was and I put shoes on, little ballet slippers.
and look at those toes.
Right? They might have smoothed them out a little bit, it's possible. But yeah. So then I was able to use the trademark. And Sean was very gracious about it. There was never, this is a big deal. I've been, quietly championing Sean to anyone behind the scenes who wants to hear it. I know people love to, villainize him. But Sean, you didn't ask for a ton of money. You took the money and split it with Romana. It was very, you were like, one check goes to me, one check goes to Romana. I've never seen you be anything but fair. I have here all of the archival, the calendars that were free to us with all of the archival things when you were a member of Sean's, when
the
you
Pilates Guild.
I never have seen this like ogre side. I mean, not that I haven't seen. We all know Sean if he wants to. We know you, Sean. But it's he has the right to. It's his stuff. If you own something, you own something. I get confused about people who feel that they want something versus being entitled to it. Like, I would like some of Sean's stuff, but I'm not entitled to it. Like, it's his. So yeah.
So
Well,
how did you choose what photographs you wanted to use in your book? And you have some of those with you.
Yeah.
And I just want to give a shout out to everyone that's joined us. Thank you. You can see that we've got quite a conversation going on here. So I just want to acknowledge everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
back to Brooke and
this
Sean.
one, in my mind, it was critical that the Pilates Body not just be a book. You can't have a book about Pilates that doesn't have the man. I always say yoga doesn't have a name attached to it. It has many names attached to it, different styles. But this is a man. A man who lived and who spoke what he wanted. He put it in writing. He put it in pictures. So I think there was just, to me, it's a respect you can't talk Pilates or understand Pilates without understanding the man behind it. And so for me, it was critical. And so I picked ones that I thought embodied who he was. So Joe, the inventor.
So, you know, let me just say something. You
Yeah.
know, during the court case, you know, that she said it's like yoga or aerobics, and I said, well, there's no Mr. Yoga and there's no Mr. Aerobics.
Exactly.
That was a big difference, but you know, it didn't really
Yeah.
matter.
And we know, I'm sure all three of us can tell stories about talking about Pilates, and people are like, oh, it's a person? Still, to this
Yeah.
day. People don't know.
Everything. Yeah.
Right. And it's
So,
just like yoga.
Yeah.
and it's just like yoga, yeah, of course. So yeah, so to me, it was really important that people see also that it was a man, because I knew that the girls who I used in my book they were teachers at my studio. So I just used who I had, but I would have loved to have men in the book, but so I wanted people to see this is a big, strong man.
Yes.
And so again, this beautiful, like, and you have to remember, I was just bumping up on 30. So 57 seemed old to me. So I was like, look at him at 57. And then this
Yeah.
guy,
So that's quite a few pictures in your book.
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
And this I love just because of the diaphragmatic breathing, you know, as an asthmatic, that was important to me. And then these ones kind of went in chapter. I feel like there might have even been another one, but these are the ones I found that were in there.
Yeah.
Just to show, again, you know, you have to talk about who he was. And so that's how I chose. And also, Sean, I think, gave me a whole, I think I had a huge selection to choose from.
You know, what people don't realize is that at that time, if you were a certified teacher and part of the Pilates Guild, you could go down to 890 Broadway, where I had another studio. I had two in Manhattan at the time, and that's where Alyssa was set up. And there was a whole office, and there was a little room, and you could go and look at any of the archives, you know, that you wanted. Now, very few people did that.
Right?
I did. I know, but very few did. You know, take advantage of that. But it was available.
You're right, because nobody really cared at the time. It's so funny how much everyone cares all of a sudden, because nobody cared then.
Well,
you offered so much opportunity, and I know Tone and Michael and I were definitely in that little room a lot, watching the little videos. Yes, it's true. I don't think I signed in. I'm not always a rule follower that way. But
you know, Alyssa was there, so as long as you couldn't do it on your own, you had to do it through Alyssa to get it. So
was Andrew. He was in the back of the office as well. Sean's lawyer.
Who was the lawyer?
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, and that's, you know, something to remember is that when, you know, you were able to do that, you were able to look at those things. And when you say, you know, it's funny now, well, you know, when I bought the trademark and I bought the business, one of the things that I did in the archives, I started to share those, and I wanted to share that. I wanted to put it out there. You know, and then after the lawsuit, basically, I sort of, you know, and then 9/11, and I had to close almost everything.
I didn't know.
You know, it was funny. I was just reading an article about the restaurants in New York. You know, and they were interviewing. I think it was in New York, but it was somewhere, and they're talking about how they're almost, you know, a lot of them may fail and all this stuff unless they get government help. Well, you know, 9/11, you know, I realized you had to be really big or really small, because you're in the middle. There was no help. And that's I was in the middle, and I had no help, and I went out. You know, I almost went out of business totally. Luckily, when I moved down to one studio, and that was it. And then after that, I didn't grow anymore because, you know, luckily this time with the pandemic, the government stepped in, but the government didn't really step in back then.
No, you had to apply through FEMA, and there was a whole small business.
But you see, I wasn't below 14th Street, so I wasn't eligible. You know, you had to be a certain area, but you know, the problem was most of the insurance companies and everybody else where I got my cash from were below 14th Street.
Right.
So I didn't get cash for, you know, almost 8 months. And when, you know, you're running businesses, it's very difficult to do that. So I ended up closing about. But, you know, that's part of the thing, is that when you're looking at all these things that I'm trying to do, so then when I started to come back, you know, in 2013, 2014, I started doing the same thing, pushing classical, you know, what Ramana did and what I did with Ramana, and also the archives. And, you know, now we did the Pilates at the Pillow. We've done all this stuff. And now all of a sudden it's becoming popular again. And, you know, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. And, you know, what's really disturbing to me is when you see Balanced Body, who didn't want to have anything to do with me, didn't want to make the equipment, didn't want to do all that stuff, and now all of a sudden he's making classical. It's like, and the PMA is trying to get everybody licensed and certified so that, and if that happens, then then you're going to have, they're controlling what you can call Pilates. Well, isn't that what they all both fought me for?
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
No, there's a
well
lot
said.
I think it's very interesting, and I think it's important, and I'm happy to be the one to say it. I'm sure other people have said it as well, but Sean puts his neck out there, right? Okay, yes. Ooh, I in no way mean this. This is going to be an awkward sentence, but I'm going to say it anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you like Sean or not. I'm saying this to everyone out. It doesn't matter. If he legally owns something, he's entitled to it, and he can do whatever he wants with it. And if you don't like that, that's fine. You don't have to like it. But I just, the villainizing of you has always bothered me, because I think that there's so many people out there who smile and act very nice, but who actually, if you look under the hood, it's not so nice what's happening under there. So I think what you see with Sean is what you get. I've always found you to be quite honest and fair. I've never found, and I've never had you, I don't know. I don't get it. I think sometimes I look at people and I just don't understand what they really have such an issue with you.
Well, here's a big issue, or a big thing, right? You reached out to me. You wanted to do it the right way, and we did it the right way. That's how it's done. There's quite a few people who, like you say, they think they deserve it. They don't reach out. They just use it, and they use it illegally because it's owned. You may think I don't own it, but, I have the documentation that shows, where, it was Joe from his, there's his will to Clara, she sold it, they sold it, and then I bought it. And, when you buy that, you own those things. And, if it was artwork, I could hide it. I didn't have to share any of this.
Exactly.
Most of the stuff that these people are talking about and upset about, the only reason why they even have it or can use it is because I published it, because it wasn't published before. So
I said it's like going to a museum and you look at a Picasso and you're like, I love this, but I know you have more in your private collection, and I'm entitled to see it all. Bring it up for me right now, because I want to see it. It's like, it's, and I also feel like, and Shauna, you can say yes or no to this, but I mean, you've never been afraid of a good fight. You're like, listen, if you want to try to take it from me, go for it. But like, so people have that right. But what they tend to do that I really don't like is they try to, and the only way I can think of it is like high school, like gang up in the community to try to get people in the community to turn against one another, when I don't really understand what that is. If I had an issue with you, Sean, and we've gone at it, we've done it's always like straight out there. But if you have an issue with the person, take it up with the person. If you feel you have a legal right to something, by all means, let Sean have it, let him know that you want to. But I mean,
so this does, I want to interrupt. This does beg the question, Sean, what can people do if they see an image and they want to know who owns it?
Well, I mean, there's not that much out there, right? There is some. I mean, like Elaine has been able to find all these articles and all this, all this other archival stuff.
Yeah,
and she has her website. Elaine, you can post it. I can't remember the exact name.
Been amazing. Yeah.
And
it's on here, Rhinebeck.
Right. So, and she also has a Instagram page. But people can go and find that, and it's it's available. It's you can use it. It's freely available. You can read it. You can do all that stuff, and that's fine. The other thing is that, and Brooke, I hate to say this, but a number of people have scanned the pictures that are from your book and put them online.
I'm sure.
And then when I play whack-a-mole because, for copyright, you have to protect it.
You do.
I mean, and you should just, so I'm protecting it. I'm following the law. I'm following what I need to do as the owner. And, when, people vilify because they always like to do that. If you send a letter to say, that's mine, or you have something taken down, oh my God, what is he doing? I'm following the law. I'm following what needs
Yeah.
to be done, and you're
But
not.
back
But
to the question, though. So do we just ask you
yes.
if we find an
Now,
image and we're
and look,
not sure?
if you find an image and you want to use it, that's a
Mhm.
possibility. I mean, it's funny to me, Chuck Rappaport, he spent one day with Joe, took a bunch of pictures, and he charges a lot more than I charge, right? And he charges
Yes.
all this money, and people, the difference is I'm not sure he goes after the people who use it, improperly. I
Right.
do. I mean, because it's mine,
Yeah.
and
But
I
also,
protect
nobody
my
says
business.
to him, I want all your pictures. You have to give them to me.
Right. Well, that's it, and so I'm doing
Yeah.
different things to make it all work. And yeah,
Yep.
people, and if you're not sure, you reach out. You reach to Chuck, you reach to me. Who else is
Yeah.
there? I mean, there's
Okay.
really not much else. And, depending on the project, I mean, if I've had people reach out to me that are totally contemporary, doing nothing that Joe taught, wanting to use his picture, and I say no, because that's
Yeah.
not Joe. I've always been
Okay.
about, maintaining and the quality and integrity of Joe's work. As it was passed on to me, even though I bought it, it was still that responsibility was passed on, and I still follow that.
That's
The
all
current,
I've ever seen. I mean, so I can say I've known you since '94. I've not seen anything else than that in you. I always said if Sean wanted to make a mint off of this, if he wanted to take advantage of
I would
people,
have sold it all a long time ago. I would
Yep.
have put it out there and
Yep.
just
of course.
thrown it out.
But the thing is
Okay.
also, and I do really hope that you get, I hope you get some appreciation for this, but you're not selling your stuff for even crazy price. You're really very fair. I've always found you to be a fair
Yeah.
person. I mean, if I don't know something, someone can tell me, fine. But my experience of you has been nothing but fair. And,
Yeah.
and it's business. It's not personal. It's business.
Right.
I don't really get
Well,
And there's more to come.
for some reason, I'm not allowed to have a business.
No,
I don't get it. It's like
Yeah.
everybody else can, but I can't.
You have plenty of fans here.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody, and I try to do things the right way as best as possible, and I try to make it. I'm fair. Now,
Yeah.
Brooke, when you say some people, you either like me or you don't. Well, on social media, people say a lot of stuff, and I ask questions.
yeah,
And I'm upfront, and I don't, a lot of people don't say stuff. I'll
Nope.
say exactly what I think and how I feel. And a lot of
Yep.
people don't like that MO, and that's okay. I mean, but the reality is when you're having discussions, and especially, about Pilates and other things, and they say things that it's like, well, where's your evidence? They say the science. And I say, well, where's the science? And nobody ever provides it. And then they get all upset, and I keep asking, like, where's the science? I mean, I've been barred from a couple of Facebook groups because I asked the questions too many times because nobody's answering. And I'm like, well, if you're going to claim things or say that my system, the what my classical or my contemporary or whatever it is better because of the science, and then you don't provide any backup for the science, well, that's not science.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I am very upfront, and I say exactly what I think and how I feel. And I've spent 40 years, studying and teaching about the body. So I know a few things.
Yeah, you do. You do.
All right, let's move on. We're just approaching almost a half hour here. And I wanted Brooke to give us a chance to tell us what your latest project is that you've worked on based on the archives.
I mean, inspired by the archives. I mean, I would never.
Something called the Magic Square.
So the pieces I saw were obviously the one that was in my book, that Sean allowed me to print. I was like, what's that? So that was when I think it first started rattling in my brain, like, what the heck is that between his legs? And then later on, of course, when Sean published his archival book that I wrote a little thing for on the back of the book, which I love that book. There's Joe with the tensometer on his shoulder, right? Pressing that down and had a long tube and it had like, I don't have to tell you, Sean, but like, it had a meter and it was like to see how far you could squeeze in. But then when you read the patent on it, it's really interesting, like what he talked about. Yeah. Oh,
No, I
yeah.
wasn't going to say
So
anything.
what Joe Pilates intended this thing for, it's for wrinkles under your chin. And it's really fascinating stuff. So that was the tensometer. And then there was the magic square that was between his legs, which I didn't know that was what it was called. I just saw it in the back of a life photograph. I happened to lighten it was when, I'm good at Photoshop. So I was able to lighten the photo and I was like, what's that? And that has that diamond shape with the horizontal spring. So so what I created was called the tensatoner because I took the tenso, I thought I'm going to keep it in the vein of the tensometer, but it doesn't have a meter. It's got 2 compression springs. I was saying that the reason I call it the missing piece is twofold. One is we don't have many compression spring devices that are in the public. I don't know what Sean has in the museum, but there's the foot corrector, and then and that's springs, and then there's the magic circle, but I guess that's a big spring if you think, but it's not a spring. But other than that, there's no compression devices. So, and even the magic square is an extension spring. So when I saw that between his legs, my thought was no compression. I like the idea of something being square, so it stays still. It's low to the ground. So the magic circle you can't put between your ankles when you're lying down, but the tensatoner you can. So that's what it was born from. It was inspired by some of the pictures, but it's not Joe's. And I've been correcting people. People keep calling it the tensometer and, saying about it. So I am going in and being like, just so you know, this is not one of Joe's inventions. It's inspired by inventions. But
well, one of the things, and if you look at the archives, the compression spring is much different than the extension spring. It does totally different, works the body a totally different way. And, most of his springs are not that way. And, I've done a whole, I have a whole, webinar
Workshop.
based on, dealing with springs and what they are and how they work and how they all facilitate.
I took that back in the 90s.
Yeah. So that's how all about these springs. So basically.
I took that class.
Yeah. So basically, when you look at the compression spring and you look at that archival, that's when he was the most pumped. So compression is more like working. It more facilitates closer to the weight, and it's related more to the stability than the mobility. Because the extension spring you have to move away.
Correct.
And you have to stabilize inside, but the compression spring, you have to. It's really about the extremities, which is what the weights are. So that's the difference. So you can use these things to facilitate and build a little bit more tone. So and Joe did it. The tensometer, the question is why did he stop making it? And I have a feeling that it probably got caught. It was squeezing. It probably wasn't really sliding that well. What then became the exercise was the magic circle, because that was easy and it was basically doing the same thing.
Right.
The difference is, and then also the magic square, because one of the things is that you can't, the magic square, you can't really close all the way. So it depends on the apparatus.
Although,
because if you can't straight,
what do you think that is then? Which device?
That's the square, but you see how you can't look at his legs. You see, you can't close the legs all the way
any further than that, right?
So that's so I think that's also limiting as far as your extension, because when you look at everything else that he did, he liked to have that full extension. Right. He didn't like to have that bent knee. So again, why did they change? We're not there. I can't tell. We can only try to make our best guess.
Yeah.
But that's part of it. I think, some of those things that he stopped using as much because, it just wasn't letting him do exactly what he wanted to do.
Okay. Wow, that's all really fascinating. I just want to thank you both so much.
Thank
you.
You.
Brooke, if someone wants to reach out to you, they can just, where can they contact
Brooke
you?
Siler Pilates. Yeah.
Brooke Siler Pilates?
Brooke Siler Pilates, web, wherever you want to find me. I'm around. Okay. I'm definitely around.
All right.
They'll find her. They'll find her.
Thank you both so much.
They have to look for all that red hair. They'll find her.
Red and pink. Red and pink.
If you want me, look for the shiny bald head. That's how it goes.
Or the puppet.
Well, just so you know.
Oh, Brooke.
Oh,
no.
Oh, no.
Just so you know. We have a new puppet coming.
Oh, Sean, I mean, it's a side of you. I absolutely could say that in a million years, if you said, you know, like draw a line from Sean to one of these things that he has as a I would never have picked puppetry.
Well, you know, when I was a kid, I was always thought it was cool, and I was, you know, it's like I'd like to do that, but you know, I never got it. And then during the pandemic,
It's wonderful.
you know, I wanted to make people laugh, and I thought that would make people laugh, and it did. And I had fun, and I was learning something. You know, I went to the ventriloquist convention last year. I'm going to go again. I went and did
I saw the
tapes.
I think you're very misunderstood, and I'm glad that this is being done. And Elaine, thank you for putting it together, and Kathy, thank you for hosting it. I think you are very misunderstood. I hope that people take the time to get to know you a little bit more. And, you know, I think you've been incredibly generous, and I hope you will continue to be generous. And
I plan on it.
I'm definitely grateful. So
the new puppet is going to be Clara.
Still on the puppet. He's like,
so I have to find her voice. So that's my next.
Is it Clara? Is that what you said? The new puppet is Clara?
The new puppet is Clara.
Okay.
So they're going to have a conversation with me.
Now, together. Sean, I remember you have the audio of Joe. Do you have the audio of Clara?
No, there's no audio of Clara. So, you know, when you do ventriloquism, they say, you know, have to find the character and you have to find the voice. Well, with Joe, it's like, I got it. Clara, I got the character a little bit, but the voice, I don't know. So that's going to be I'm going to create that myself. I'll figure out how to do that. It's a lot of work.
I just talked to Tony the other day, Joe's barber, Tony Carlino. And I was asking him a few questions, about how Clara's voice was. So we'll talk, Sean.
Okay, and then you know, when in the springtime, I'll go up. You know, I'll go up and see him, and I'll talk with him. So I'll bring the puppet, and he can tell me about it. That'll be fun.
Okay.
A little bit of research.
All right.
Well, Brooke, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You know, I've always liked working with you, and I do appreciate you in the background. You know, when I see certain things, when some of those haters come out and do that, I see what you do, and I appreciate it.
Good.
So, and again, you know, my bark is sometimes a lot, you know, louder than my bite, as they say. So
it's
okay.
Listen to my Instagram stuff and my Facebook stuff.
Anyone who loves puppets can't be all bad, right?
Right. Yeah. You got it. Well, you know, remember, I used to take care of Big Bird.
Oh my God, this is a whole nother. I think you have a whole nother.
Well, as a PT, Big Bird had Carol Spinney, who was the guy who did Big Bird. You know, when you do Big Bird, your arm is up like this.
Oh, I never.
And he started having a shoulder problem, so his neck was getting a bend in it. So I had to fix Big Bird.
I'm sorry, that is hilarious. I really want. That is brilliant.
And it was funny when I first went. You know, he was all worried that they were trying to get rid of him. And I'm like, dude, I'm just here to fix your you know, the bird's neck. I'm not here to, you know, like get you fired or anything like that. And then once I started working with him, he was very open and we got a lot. And I fixed his neck. You know, I fixed his shoulder and his arm and I taught him how to take care of it. And so Big Bird, you know, I helped Big Bird. So there you go.
That could be called like bird arm if we have anyone who's stuck in that position.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
And thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Here's to another 30 years.
Yeah, I hope so. That's the goal.
I'll be here.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.